Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the second video on this firearm. Of course, the first one previous to this was the firearm completely disassembled, and I explained in the couple of previous videos before that, if you go back and watch the Browning A5 video of how I acquired these barnyard fine firearms. The barn was actually converted to a shop, and that's where the guns were kept, but it's close enough to a barn find that that's what I'm going to stick with. That's my story. And this is the completed firearm after we got it cleaned and reassembled. I didn't end up replacing as many parts as I thought I would have to. The gun functioned fine with the original bolt, and in fact I did get a replacement bolt, and it was in worse shape than this one actually, so I elected not to use it and just return it and go with replacing some of the screws. Of course, the screws I used were original Winchester 1890 screws, and I just refreshed them as little as I could in order to make them functional again. And we'll take a look at how I repaired the screw holes. Actually, I didn't repair them, I just plugged them since they were already threaded. The ones in the tang, if you watch that video, you can see exactly what condition it is. Well, let's take a closer look at the gun now, and it's already been safety checked and is clear, and we'll see how it functions now. I kind of showed how some of it functions in the previous video. This is a pre-war 1905 build date, going by the serial number, and we will show the some of the if we're able to see them in the light I've got in here, the roll marks on the firearm. Get the reflection right and the focus right. And then of course there's what I did to the tang. You can see I just got a couple of little plugs in there to fill the old holes that were drilled for some sort of possibly a tang sight. And we can see the new screws that I had to install in order to repair that. As I said, those are original screws from the another donor rusted out Hulk of a 1890 that someone had dismantled for parts, and we can see the really pleasing condition this turned out to be in. The bores still got a little bit of lead in them, working gently to get some of that out, but it does have some shine to it now. And remember, this is 111 years old now, so I'm pretty pleased with the condition of it. There was no refinishing done on the gun. As I said, I cleaned the screws up and went through the damaged ones, and used a little technique I have to push the messed up portion back into condition on the screw without having to resort to grinding new slots in them and things like that. Let me switch it over here, show you the opposite side. Of course, this is a second variation. First variation would not be a takedown. Second variation had this takedown screw. You can just pull it and it breaks into two parts, as I showed in the previous video. And the third variation had a larger locking lugs on the bolt. Right in this area, the locking lugs would be extended out further. So this is kind of a combination between the third and first variations with attributes of both. Alright, let's the function of the gun. Very interesting function when you get back here far enough so you can see it. The hammer has to be down in order for it to be, the pump to be able to be operated, and when it's down you can see the action of the gun. It will bring a new cartridge up and lines it up, actually holds it in place. Really interesting mechanism to watch. And then feeds it right into place as you slam it forwards. Now with the hammer in the cocked position as it is now, the pump will not be able to work. It locks the gun up. If I drop the hammer back and put it into the half cock position, you still cannot operate the pump, nor can you operate the trigger. And you saw it was safety checked, so don't panic there. If I drop the hammer back down all the way, now it can be, the pump will operate. It functions perfectly. It flings the entry cartridges out. The new extractor is working perfectly. I did have to replace that, but it's absolutely working, and function is perfect on it now. Now, if you remember, I only paid about $200 for this firearm. Take a look at the crown. Real nice long barrel for a 22 short. It's going to be fun to see what our accuracy tests are. The way that mechanism works, the firing pin has a little protrusion on it that actually lines up with the receiver, and you can actually see that. This is the protrusion right here, and that protrusion, as you go forward with the pump, it's a little drags on. Yeah. If I hold the firing pin down, I can actuate it, but it will actually drop, rubs on the side of the now I'm able to actuate it because I'm holding the firing pin in, which moves it out of this little notch in the receiver that it engages with, and that's what locks it up. So if the firing pin is pushed forward, it can be freed and operated. But John Browning was quite the inventor, and this is quite a symphony of parts. Works reliably. Winchester said it wouldn't work, but it did, and eventually regretted not making these, and the patent was also issued to them, so it was issued to 2 manufacturers. And these pre-war Winchesters are just, I really like the patina and the heft of them. I wish they still made these. In fact, these are fantastic guns. This one, of course, 22 short. Again, if we can get that in there. They were also made in 22 long, not 22 long rifle, but 22 long. And then the precursor of the 22 Magnum, they were also chambered in the 22 WRF, the 22 Winchester rimfire, which is, as I said before, a round I really like shooting in my revolver 22 Magnums, because the recoil is gentler. They're just so much more accurate with that round. Of course, they're not designated. Do that at your own risk, but I find it a highly accurate round out of a like my Ruger single 6 22 Magnum. So there we have it on the rifle. And then the rear sights, the Lyman sights. These are original Lyman sights that came on the firearm, and they were, as I showed in the first video, modified to work on this firearm. As you can see, they've been silver soldered, a new eyepiece. It's not replaceable at this point. This has been modified to fit on this 1890, and here's the marking on it. And I can show you, if you can see, if we can get that in the light correctly, but right near that screw hole there's a very small N stamped, and that there are codes on these sights. You can there's quite a long list of them, so I'm not gonna get into that right here, but that N code, I got my notes here just to make sure I tell you right, is for the Winchester 1890 86, and it fits all calibers except for the 33 caliber, which would have had an NI, I believe. The correct sights for this firearm would have a WS on them, which are designated for the 1890. Really, the only difference is the height of the stems and the barrel here. So someone has shortened this one up in order to make it fit on this firearm. The wear marks indicate on the firearm that it was on there for quite some time. And I do have the correct screws to remount it if I find I want to. But it does line up and fits absolutely perfectly on the firearm. The value, of course, of this sight, they're quite high. Often they're in the hundreds of dollars for these old, many hundreds of dollars for these old original sights. With this one having been modified extensively, it makes it unique to this gun. And at some point after we test fire it, I may remount this on the firearm just to keep them together. But irregardless, they'll stay together on this old farm and ranch gun. So there it is, the total package back together. We'll take a look at the patent date on the sights too, just for fun. You can see the 1901, January 29th, 1901 patent date there. And of course, showed you the June 88 and December 1892 patent date. And of course, again, this firearm built in 1905. All right. Well, thanks for watching. That's the end of the Barnyard Finds. We're going to take a little break from YouTube here for just a brief week or two, and we'll be back. Going to get out to the range now that we finally have sunshine in the Rocky Mountains, and we'll get some shooting videos on many of these firearms we've taken a look at over the winter. Well, thanks for watching.